So this movie, the topic of this movie is there's no beating around the bush, and you'll see why I sort of just gave all that spiel just then. It's about child trafficking, obviously. So pretty brutal stuff. It goes on all the time. It's pretty high percentages that's going on in the world. It's pretty brutal.
Have
It's
you
pretty
actually seen it yet,
disgusting.
Nate?
I haven't had a chance. So I was going to reply to
I
your
thought I gave you. Yeah, I was gonna say I
DM.
think I
You
gave
did,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I need to. I've had I DM you some shit stuff.
Because I just want to say I didn't mean to
Uh,
interrupt you, but the whole thing is the way that people are presenting this movie, I think, is doing it a tad of a disservice. 'Cause it is about a very bad thing, but I think Nick, you saw it, right?
Yep.
You just said you just saw it. Like, I think you'll agree with me. The way it's presented is very tasteful, and the emotions that people are feeling are a result of the story, not anything visceral, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not very
Yeah.
exploitative. They don't get too deep into anything showing it. Wise, most of it happens off screen or is implied.
Yep.
This is PG-13, right? Keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot tamer than I think some people are like presenting it as far as the subject matter goes. I just wanted to put that out there.
I was wondering
it's important.
I just got on Fandango and got tickets to go Wednesday night, and I was thinking that some of the people that were reviewing it were making it sound like it might be stuff that might include stuff that some people couldn't stomach, right? And I have heard that you need to take probably a box of Kleenex with you. But
again, it's more the story part of it than it is
yeah.
anything they actually show on screen. Because I guess I just read an interview with like the people that made the film. They were talking about the child actors that are in the film. Like they made sure that the child actors had no idea what they were technically filming.
Yeah. And I heard the child actors were fantastic.
Yeah, and because of that, they don't really exploit any of those moments, right? Like they could go into this thing like they could really show you the horrors of what goes on and really use that to the movie's, advantage in some way to exploit the situation. But you don't even need that. Right. The emotions that people are feeling without giving away spoilers are just it is an emotional roller coaster. You're constantly on the edge of your feet trying to, even if you know the story, it's a white knuckle kind of thriller in a sense that you want this family back together, right? Like that's the whole thing the movie's predicated on. And this guy, he's trying to see to that. He's got one goal, and in the process of that goal, if he can save as many kids as possible, that's the point. But really, the movie is this overarching story of reuniting this family.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of the pushback from the mainstream media and some of the reviews are just sort of par for the course because these same people didn't care for like Rambo: Last Blood, Death Wish, and so on. And go ahead.
Well, yeah, nah, because yes and no, but it's they're masquerading it as that. That's the same attitude, but I think it comes from a much darker, deeper place, right? And I think that's quite undeniable. When you've got this movie, like this type of movie, everyone should be able to get behind, right?
Yes.
Like this kind of story, everyone should be able to get behind it. It's a universal story. Morally, if you have a good moral compass, you could just watch this and go, yeah, this needs to be out there so people get the word out. It's a good story as well. It needs to be on people's radars. There you go. Done. But the likes of Deadline, like Variety,
CNN,
it's far
Washington
right.
Post.
It's the far right media. This is the far right. What is far right?
The QAnon. It's the QAnon.
They're literally calling it, and this is a quote. This is a physical quote. A QAnon conspiracy fantasy.
Yeah. Like this didn't really happen, and this kind of thing isn't really happening out there in the world.
That just doesn't work, though. I mean, in other words, did they say that about Taken? I mean, the guy's teenage daughter gets kidnapped for trafficking. I posted a tweet a few days ago because I saw, the same outlets like Washington Post and Rolling Stone were promoting Cuties on Netflix. And then treating this like it's some sort of, like you said, a QAnon tinge thriller about child trafficking, that doesn't happen. It's kind of strange, really, to see them defending it. And I don't know if it's a matter of, are they just, we still don't know the names of anybody on Jeffrey Epstein's client
Look at
list.
this.
So
Look at fucking this.
No, and this is the thing I've been saying the last
outrageous,
few
isn't
days,
it?
and I'm glad you brought up Rambo and Death Wish, actually, Chris, because Rambo is more of the revenge fantasy that these guys are trying to paint
vigilante.
this movie to be.
Okay.
Not at no point I wouldn't see. There's even people that are griping that some of the theaters are listing this as an action thriller. It's not. There's hardly any action in it as far as like that goes. But the other side of this is, I'm glad you brought up Death Wish, because at the time Death Wish came out, there was a pair of films that came out that really changed the way America was looking at certain things at that time, because the 60s going into the 70s were a very there was tons of turmoil in the US and throughout other parts of the world. Dirty Harry and Death Wish, though, were direct comments on the leniency of the left and how they were feeling that criminals should be treated in the system. And those movies were based on real events, as far as like Death Wish was about people that were starting to become vigilantes, basically, in like New York and other places where crime was rampant. Dirty Harry actually influenced the idea that maybe we need like a CSI or something like that, to where we can start tracking some of these serial killers and stuff like that. Because at that time, the Scorpion Killer that is based on the Black Dahlia and the Zodiac Killer, who now they're starting to believe might have been the same person. See, that's why how important these things become. And not only that, one thing that we saw was the critics and the media were treating those two films specifically the exact same way they're treating this movie. It was a right-wing fantasy.
Yes.
Like that's what they kept calling a revenge fantasy and all these things in the press. And the critics were all saying the same type of stuff. And now this, to me, is ringing the same kind of things we're seeing here. Because what have we seen in the last few months here, especially not to go too deep into it, but the big mantra has been leave the children alone, right? When it comes to the stuff with Disney, when it comes to all the medical stuff and all that stuff, not to get into that. I think this movie coming out at this time, this way, being the movie that it was, coming from the studio system, being bought by the producers and this Angel Studios, which that's the other thing. These Christian films, or these Christian companies that promote and produce some of these films, they don't need standard audiences. They have more than enough people in their network that they just promote it to them, and they don't force others to have to go hear about it or see it. This movie is taking on a life of its own, much like Passion of the Christ and Jesus Revolution and some other movies have in recent years that have come from that.
But this one doesn't have a strong, it
and
doesn't proselytize, does it?
No, and that's the other thing. They can't even really hang it up on that. They've tried to lean into that a little bit, but they're leaning more into the QAnon conspiracy stuff. Yeah. Because they can't even lean into, it's just Christian ranting, that would be the other thing they normally would put to something like this. But that's the thing, is it was made by the studio, so that's just a small part of the movie. You can't even really. They're really selling what little there is in the movie in the trailers.
Didn't Angel Studios buy back the rights from Disney because Disney didn't want to release it?
Yeah. But and the thing is, they're really leaning heavily into the far right element. That's what they're calling it. Far right this, far right that, this, blah 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 blah. Like it's bizarre. It's bizarre. We're in a world now. I mean, it's not bizarre. Like it is, but it isn't. But it shouldn't be this way, and that's why it's sad. Is that you're in a world now where something which should be common ground for everyone. And by and large, it actually is. It's just painted in the media that it's not. And the thing is, this is common ground for everyone. Near enough everyone can get behind this. And that's why you are seeing a bit of a movement in the Western world now pushing, like, no, leave the kids alone. Like, you've gone definitely too far now. But the mainstream media obviously perpetuates an image which is counter to that, to say, no, this is far right. You support this. It's not common ground. Oh, no. And that's what they're trying to do. And it's just, it's a shame.
I actually have a clip that really is exactly what all these media outlets are saying, the CNN clip, if you want to show it. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
That's CNN.
I think we'll be okay. I mean, it's just a news
clip. It's news.
That's true. You mentioned this CNN. It's important, I think, to remember that the guy that was a producer for Jake Tapper over at CNN was accused of shocking sex crimes against minors. I wonder sometimes,
most people in the media are always.
I wonder if that's why they are attacking this movie. There's sort of this. I've been watching. I'm a little late to the show on the morning show on Apple. But there's this culture, and I wonder if there's a culture at some of these media outlets where, hey man, I'm okay, you're okay, my girlfriend's a little underage. I don't know. But this is a great clip, by the way. This is worth watching. The Fever.
Because it really sums up the Rolling Stone review.
Yeah.
It sums
It
up
does.
So this is all about A Sound of Freedom, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I got something very interesting to add to this whole thing that you guys might not have heard about also that's going on, but I'll get into it after this.
All right, let's listen to this then.
All right. Ready?
And you seem pretty familiar with him because he doesn't really hide his association with this real wild plot that involves, drinking the blood of children and things like that.
No, he doesn't hide it at all. And you have a lot of people who are in this world of QAnon who say, oh, they don't know what that is. They've never heard of it. They're just asking questions. With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts. He's speaking at QAnon conventions. And this film is being marketed to either specific QAnon believers or to people who believe all of the same tenets as QAnon, but claim they don't know what it is.
And The Sound of Freedom does focus on a real issue,
Yeah.
sex trafficking. But that theme, it's sort of like that kernel of truth that feeds the QAnon
This is the rub
conspiracy
here,
theory.
right? Like,
tell us how those two things work together.
This is how they try to.
Sure. And the most durable and the most believable conspiracy theories are not entirely false. There's something in them that is true and the rest of it is false. But the believers point to the one true thing and they say, oh, you don't believe that this particular thing is true. In terms of child trafficking, we know trafficking is real. We know it has real victims. No one is denying that. But these films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics.
That bugs me. I'd like to know what he's talking about as far
films.
as bogus statistics in these films.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did he
Now, the
complain
movies-
about Taken? I mean, come on, dude.
Exactly. Or these are the same people that made Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't remember anybody going, that movie was almost completely bullshit, but hey,
God
muted, Chris.
damn.
You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just bullshitting over here. It's ridiculous, man. You don't need to hear what I'm saying. It just it gets on my nerves that they're attacking this movie for it's based on a true story. How many movies out there are based on a true story that they start ripping into on the regular?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't. We're here to be entertained. We're here to be moved. They're not sitting here trying to talk about CNN's producer who was charged with child porn and child abuse. It's just really strange.
I
I'm
can't
glad you
believe-
brought this clip up.
What was this nonsense about drinking the blood of children?
Okay,
What the
they're
fuck?
It's called
twisting-
adrenochrome. Look it up. It's
they're
insane.
twisting things that that the real Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel have talked about. And actually, I'll address that in just a moment. And I know Nick really has something to say about this too. There's like 20 seconds left of this. Let's finish this out here.
Okay.
They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feeling to have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course it's not true.
That is
Nothing
not-
happened on
that is-
Epstein's Island.
Yeah, and I gotta.
Just real quick, but that is absolutely not what people are thinking that's happening. They don't think that they're bringing down pedo rings by watching this movie. They think that they're spreading awareness. That's all it is. What? How do these people get off on this nonsense? Like, how do you even say that with a straight fucking face? I don't understand.
It's a shame,
Fucking-
mate. I want you to look at the link that I just shared, though. This guy's acting like this doesn't happen with children and these blood sacrifices, but the BBC has reported on children being trafficked specifically for blood rituals. This is not a new thing. That's from 2011.
Yeah, and I just had a clip up there from the Hollywood Reporter, who actually kind of was one of the few papers to actually say this in any kind of smart terms. But yeah, go back to what you had.
THR did? Okay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, they were just basically saying, even though these things have been discussed on QAnon boards, the movie is not a QAnon movie. Like they at least were smart enough
great.
to say
Oh,
that.
my
Yeah,
God.
THR.
Well, did
buried
anybody
in the
vote for
article.
Trump? Because that's what I really need to know. If you voted for Trump, whether or not I can go see your movie. It's ridiculous. It's a
Jesus.
shame.
Right. What did you want to add to
Yeah.
that then, Nick?
Yeah,
go ahead,
so
Nick, please.
So I don't know if you guys have heard any of this going around social media or anything, but allegedly there is AMC theaters seem to be trying to bomb this movie and prevent it from being shown. There's been a lot of reports out there going around, and I have an AMC close to me, so I actually went to the AMC by my house to go see this movie, and but apparently they cut the ACs off in the theater. Well,
Jesus.
this movie's showing the
heard that.
projectors mysteriously
Why?
will quit working, and they have to refund people their ticket money. So
I
That's
can
the
think of a
biggest
few
thing,
reasons.
refund of the tickets. I wonder if that's just some sort of ploy. I mean, honestly, is Disney calling AMC and saying, we'll pay for every ticket you refund? You
Yeah.
can't beat Indy 5. What is the point?
yeah,
Well, I wouldn't say they would do that. Okay, there's two sides to this, and I wonder if Jonas is still in the chat because he and Pearl were going to actually look into this. And I was waiting to hear back from them on what they found out because I had gotten a few people sending me a few of these too. And yeah, there was I think it was an Instagram or TikTok video that a lady had put up where she had claimed this had happened. And then a bunch of other people had chimed in underneath it saying that it had similar things happen to them too. Now, what we concluded is most probable is either A, it's just isolated incidents and it's just, it is what it is and people are chiming in and lying. Or B, it could be you have some purple-haired land whales that work in these places and who are reading this crap and who are just trying to sabotage it, and it's just a few isolated incidences in that case. Or it's C, somebody from higher up at Disney may have called somebody higher up at AMC and, let's say, pressured them into sabotaging these for various reasons, and they wouldn't have to really offer them any incentives, Chris. All they have to do is say, we'll cut you guys a better deal on the Marvels or whatever. or they could threaten them with not letting them have something coming out or the next Avatar movie. You know, that's how, and Disney is, and that's the thing with the option C, is Disney's not above that shit. We have had several reports where they will strong arm these theaters into doing several things, and it's not a secret. I mean, even
that sounds like a QAnon conspiracy. Exactly right. the thing is, I would understand. Like, it is July, it is hot. I could see air conditioners going out, but the refunding people in advance without telling them why they're doing it and notifying them, hey, we're doing this because the air conditioner's down in that theater. We're very sorry. Please use this credit to purchase tickets for it on another date. But when I bought tickets for, and as I said, I have not seen Sound of Freedom yet. I'm going with a friend on Wednesday night. And with Wednesday night, Mission Impossible is taking over so many theaters that as I was booking my tickets, it might be, Sound of Freedom might be at this theater on Monday, but it wasn't there on Wednesday. And so they had a very limited time to get this done, and I could see it being a sabotage. And that's whether it's the land wheels, like you said,
that's the thing, is that's what makes option, you know, where it's just this look, because everybody's reporting, and if they're to be believed, they're reporting that all the air conditioning is working everywhere else, but just those theaters. It seems
it's intentional.
And if the movies are being sold out, which they are, why is the theaters not just moving them to a different screen where nothing is being sold out? You can easily combine like an indie screening and not that's the thing that's really weird. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just do that instead?
Why not refund the 6 people coming to see Indiana Jones and let the 200 people come in and watch Sound of Freedom?
Exactly, Chris.
Just to finish up my story, when we went to the AMC, the projector mysteriously stopped working before the film showed. And they were trying to refund our tickets or tell us to wait till a later showing in another theater, which was another hour wait.
What'd you do?
I waited and then saw it.
Now, I do know the last time that happened to me was 1989 when I went to see Batman, middle of the movie between the reels. The projector failed.
No.
That's the worst. Right,
we stuck around. Yeah, we stuck around.
You know what's funky is I didn't have nearly as many problems back in the projector days when they actually had film, like you were just talking about,
Yeah.
compared to now with
Yeah.
digital, constantly
That
there
is
was
true.
a while. I'm always dealing with something. Yeah.
Don't do a Windows update between pictures. That's how you
Sitting here watching a movie,
So-
all of a sudden you hear boom.